depan. Pendidikan di Fakultas Bisnis Universitas Kristen Maranatha didesain secara khusus untuk mencapai potensi terbaik Anda, baik di bidang manajemen, akuntansi, dan keuangan. Mulailah perjalanan Anda bersama kami dan bersiap menghadapi tantangan hari esok. Prepare for today, be ready to create tomorrow.
It's just not about entrepreneurship, but it is also about being an innovative business leader. Sebuah tempat di mana kalian tidak hanya mendapatkan ilmu mengenai bisnis, manajemen, dan akuntansi, akan tetapi juga jaringan sosial yang luas. Temukan yang menarik dari hal yang sederhana. Fakultas Bisnis akan memberikan pengalaman belajar yang luar biasa, ditunjang dengan kompetensi dosen yang mumpuni. You learn something and you'll get something. Karena belajar di Fakultas Bisnis tidak hanya belajar mengenai konsep teori saja, akan tetapi juga konsep praktek di dunia profesional akan kamu dapatkan di sini. Berbagai macam program sudah dirancang dengan sangat baik untukmu. Kamu dapat bergabung dengan seluruh alumni yang memiliki prestasi di bidangnya.
Dunia bisnis sedang dan terus berubah. Kita butuh cara berpikir dan belajar berbisnis yang baru. Kita butuh kemampuan untuk memecahkan berbagai tantangan bisnis di masa depan. Pendidikan di Fakultas Bisnis Universitas Kristen Maranatha didesain secara khusus untuk mencapai potensi terbaik Anda, baik di bidang manajemen, akuntansi, dan keuangan. Mulailah perjalanan Anda bersama kami dan bersiap menghadapi tantangan hari esok. Prepare for today, be ready to create tomorrow.
It's just not about entrepreneurship, but it is also about being an innovative business leader. Sebuah tempat di mana kalian tidak hanya mendapatkan ilmu mengenai bisnis, manajemen, dan akuntansi, akan tetapi juga jaringan sosial yang luas. Temukan yang menarik dari hal yang sederhana. Fakultas Bisnis akan memberikan pengalaman belajar yang luar biasa, ditunjang dengan kompetensi dosen yang mumpuni. You learn something and you'll get something. Karena belajar di Fakultas Bisnis tidak hanya belajar mengenai konsep teori saja, akan tetapi juga konsep praktek di dunia profesional akan kamu dapatkan di sini. Berbagai macam program sudah dirancang dengan sangat baik untukmu. Kamu dapat bergabung dengan seluruh alumni yang memiliki prestasi di bidangnya.
Dunia bisnis sedang dan terus berubah. Kita butuh cara berpikir dan belajar berbisnis yang baru. Kita butuh kemampuan untuk memecahkan berbagai tantangan bisnis di masa depan. Pendidikan di Fakultas Bisnis Universitas Kristen Maranatha didesain secara khusus untuk mencapai potensi terbaik Anda, baik di bidang manajemen, akuntansi, dan keuangan. Mulailah perjalanan Anda bersama kami dan bersiap menghadapi tantangan hari esok. Prepare for today, be ready to create tomorrow.
It's just not about entrepreneurship, but it is also about being an innovative business leader. Sebuah tempat di mana kalian tidak hanya mendapatkan ilmu mengenai bisnis, manajemen, dan akuntansi, akan tetapi juga jaringan sosial yang luas. Temukan yang menarik dari hal yang sederhana. Fakultas Bisnis akan memberikan pengalaman belajar yang luar biasa, ditunjang dengan kompetensi dosen yang mumpuni. You learn something and you'll get something. Karena belajar di Fakultas Bisnis tidak hanya belajar mengenai konsep teori saja, akan tetapi juga konsep praktek di dunia profesional akan kamu dapatkan di sini. Berbagai macam program sudah dirancang dengan sangat baik untukmu. Kamu dapat bergabung dengan seluruh alumni yang memiliki prestasi di bidangnya.
Dunia bisnis sedang dan terus berubah. Kita butuh cara berpikir dan belajar berbisnis yang baru. Kita butuh kemampuan untuk memecahkan berbagai tantangan bisnis di masa depan. Pendidikan di Fakultas Bisnis Universitas Kristen Maranatha didesain secara khusus untuk mencapai potensi terbaik Anda, baik di bidang manajemen, akuntansi, dan keuangan. Mulailah perjalanan Anda bersama kami dan bersiap menghadapi tantangan hari esok. Prepare for today, be ready to create tomorrow.
It's just not about entrepreneurship, but it is also about being an innovative business leader. Sebuah tempat di mana kalian tidak hanya mendapatkan ilmu mengenai bisnis, manajemen, dan akuntansi, akan tetapi juga jaringan sosial yang luas. Temukan yang menarik dari hal yang sederhana. Fakultas Bisnis akan memberikan pengalaman belajar yang luar biasa, ditunjang dengan kompetensi dosen yang mumpuni. You learn something and you'll get something. Karena belajar di Fakultas Bisnis tidak hanya belajar mengenai konsep teori saja, akan tetapi juga konsep praktek di dunia profesional akan kamu dapatkan di sini. Berbagai macam program sudah dirancang dengan sangat baik untukmu. Kamu dapat bergabung dengan seluruh alumni yang memiliki prestasi di bidangnya.
Dunia bisnis sedang dan terus berubah. Kita butuh cara berpikir dan belajar berbisnis yang baru. Kita butuh kemampuan untuk memecahkan berbagai tantangan bisnis di masa depan. Pendidikan di Fakultas Bisnis Universitas Kristen Maranatha didesain secara khusus untuk mencapai potensi terbaik Anda, baik di bidang manajemen, akuntansi, dan keuangan. Mulailah perjalanan Anda bersama kami dan bersiap menghadapi tantangan hari esok. Prepare for today, be ready to create tomorrow.
Yeah, I hope everybody can hear my voice. Just give me your thumb. Can you hear my voice? Okay, thank you. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to International Guest Lecture with theme Development of Accounting and Management in 4.0 Era, held by Maranatha Christian University and Chongyuan Christian University. So this is the first series of an international guest lecture in master program, aiming to give inspiration to everyone to share and learn together about everything, especially in 4.0 era. Before we start the session, let me introduce myself. My name is Tria, and I was part of International Office Maranatha Christian University, and I will be your MC today. First and foremost, I would like to welcome the Honorable Dr. Roby Yusak Talar, STMT, the Diploma IWRM PhD as General Secretary of Maranatha Christian University, Dr. Hari Suharman SAMAK as Faculty Member of Master of Accounting, Maranatha Christian University, Prof. Chow Sin Huang PhD as Assistant Professor and Lecturer, Chung Yuen Christian University, Dr. Tan Ming Kwang PhD AKCA as Dean of Faculty of Business, Maranatha Christian University, and all members and participants from both universities. Thank you for taking time out of the day to attend this event. We know all of you had your own daily schedule, but surprisingly, we got Gary here for joining this session in the middle of hustle and bustle. I would also thank to Maranatha Christian University together with Chung Yuen Christian University for arranging this event. It's been an honor for me to be part of this event. And before we start the session, I would like to invite Dr. Rapina SMSI AKCA as Head of Master of Accounting Program to open this event with opening prayer. Dr. Rapina, the screen is yours.
Thank you, Ms. Tria. Ladies and gentlemen, I will lead to pray in the Christian way. Please kindly follow me to pray based on your own way. Let's we pray since now. Dear our Father in the heaven, thank you so much for all these things which you have given upon us. Please bestow your blessings in this guest lecture. Please teach and guide us through this guest lecture so that we could be developed to be a better person in this world in your way. We also pray for all committee, all professor, all dean, all presenter, all lecturer, and everyone else who involved in this time. May you bless them and make them become blessings for all people around us. Finally, please make we realize that this event should glorify your name. Only in the name of Jesus Christ we pray and give thanks. Amen.
Thank you, Dr. Rapina. So for the next agenda, I would like welcoming Dr. Robi Yusaktalar STMT Diploma IWRM PhD as General Secretary of Maranatha Christian University to give opening remarks. Mr. Robi, the screen is yours.
Okay, thank you, Tria. Good morning, distinguished speakers, committee, and all the participants. On behalf of our President of Maranatha Christian University, I'm very pleased to be able to welcome all of you today. Before we get started, I would like to express my highest appreciation to all the committee members who organized this event, and also Dr. Hari Suharman, SAMSI AKCA, and also Professor Chow Sin Huang, PhD, as main speakers. We already know that during today, all the industrial revolution in 4.0 era brought us to get a chance to many adjustment of work of human or machine or technology and so on, and including the accounting and management profession. It means the industrial revolution 4.0 requires the accounting and management profession to adapt all the development in many aspects. By facing this fact, the development accounting and management has opened up the new possibilities of a digital era or digital economy. Moreover, we need new innovation to encourage the creation of new markets and shift the existence of the old markets. And I think a smart machine and robots also now taking many roles and seems to be very important in economic sector also. And we already understand also in this digital era and technological grow very rapid, and the flow of information is running so fast. Internet technology has changed one's view of getting information, including the world of business. And this issue is a formidable challenge that must be answered. That's why I think we come together here in this event to discuss about it. Well, I don't want to take too much time. Enjoy the seminar, glad best, and I hand over to Ms. Tria. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Robi, for a very warm welcoming remarks. Move on to the next agenda. Please rise for the singing of our Indonesian national anthem. Now we are moving on to the one that we've been waiting for. I'm pretty sure there are a lot of participants here that just cannot wait to hear stories and experiences from our speakers. And before I hand the screen over to our moderator today, I have few information items to cover about this session. First, today event is broadcasted live on YouTube. Also, it will be available on demand after the live session through Fakultas Bisnis Maranatha YouTube page. Second, if you have any questions during the presentation, just type your question into the chat box or raise your hand. At the end of speaker session, our moderator will invite you to activate the microphone so you can ask your question to the speaker directly. And last, we really appreciate if you could give us feedback at the end of the session to our speaker. So without any further ado, please join me in welcoming our moderator for today, the Dean of Faculty of Business, Dr. Tan Minh Quang, PhD AKCA. But before you take the floor, Dr. Tan Minh Quang, I would like to briefly read the CV. Tan Minh Quang, PhD AKCA, is Dean of Faculty of Business, Maranatha Christian University. He earns his PhD in University of Otago, New Zealand, Master of Science in Accounting in Gajah Mada University, Yogyakarta, Indonesia, Akuntan in Pajajaran University, Bandung, Indonesia, and Bachelor degree in Accounting in Maranatha Christian University, Bandung, Indonesia. So, Dr. Tan Minh Quang, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Tria, for a very kind introduction. Before we proceed, I would like to greet the Honorable Pak Robi Yusak Talar, the General Secretary of Universitas Kristen Maranatha, the Honorable Dr. Rapina, the Head of Master of Accounting Study Program, Universitas Kristen Maranatha, the two distinguished speakers, Professor Huang Chao Xin and Dr. Hari Suharman. Certainly, I would like to welcome to all the participants, wherever they are, who are attending this guest lecture. Our session consists of two main parts. In the first part, each speaker will deliver his presentation material for 45 minutes. And in the second part, I would like to invite all the participants to ask questions to the speaker. As mentioned earlier by Tria, you might type your question in the chat room box. You can do it. You can do this during the presentation. Please type your name, the question, and the name of the speaker whom you ask the question for. The topic today is the development of accounting and management in 4.0 era. What the characteristic of Industry 4.0? How big data changed the management accounting? And how we respond to big data are interesting points that need to be discussed. To discuss this, already present online, Professor Huang from Chung-Yuan University, Taiwan. Professor Huang gained his PhD from Department of Accounting, National Taiwan University. He has a work experience as a manager in Deloitte, Taiwan. His teaching subjects and research interests are in audit, statistics, accounting information system, financial accounting, and management accounting fields. Good morning, Professor Huang. The screen is yours.
Okay, good morning. Professor Guan and Professor Suharman. It's my honor to have this opportunity to have this joint lecture here. And I also want to thank you, the team of the Maranatha Tria have set up so well established events. So now I think that this is a big issue that all of accounting students will want to understand what's the future they will face. And so this topic is very, very important. And okay, now I will share my slides for everyone. Yeah, and as I said here, my subtitle of this lecture, I will focus on coping with the big data. So, okay, that's my agenda for today's events. First, I will address a little bit about the features of Industry 4.0, and then I will focus on how the big data change to the management accounting. And then at last, I will suggest some methods that how can we respond to the big data. First, let's look back to the industry revolution. As we can see that in the late 700s, because the steam power and also the machine, it created industrialization. So a lot of farmers have become the workers, and our society have big change. And that's I say it's the first generation revolution of industry. And in the second revolution, it's about mid-1800s. At that time, the electricity and the assembly line together make the mass productions. Then came to the last century. In 1970s, we see that the electronics and also the information technology, and together with the globalizations, all these have created digital management. And now, for the fourth revolution, it's about maybe 2010s, we see that the intelligence and also the automations have created the smart industry. So that will make the total different what we will face in the future. For Industry 4.0, I think here I find some definition that I think can very clearly to address the issue. Here we see that it's a complex integration of physical machinery and device, and also with sensors and network software. All these will combine together. It will help us to predict and control and plan for better business and also our society. And for the tools that in Industry 4.0 we can adaptation, I think most of the important things is about one is the Internet of Things. All of the data will connect with internet, so we can collect a lot of things. And then the second one is a cyber physical system, it's a very important one that can help us to understand why the factory are getting smarter. And besides these two, some also includes maybe the big data, robotics, simulation, and cloud, and also the sensors and other tools such as RFID, GPS, and smart IT. All these come together, and we will help our business have a big change. And now, I think I will focus on big data in today's lecture. And the big data, I think it will refer to the generation, storage, processing, and verification, and also analysis, the data. And the data has very large and also has highly versatile and quickly growing. And I think most important for the big data is that all this must create information that is valuable to our business decision making. And but when we talk about the big data, sometimes we must considering is that what's the big volume it is, and it is relative to the information system's capability. And most of the time, we'll see these the storage and also the processing capability. And here, I think we can look back to the functional model of information system. And I think this is to discuss is how we cope with the information, how we deal with this information. It's not only to say that it's a computer system. When you use the manual process, when you deal with information, always can use this best model to describe it. First, we see that the users give us input or the data, and then we can process the data together, and sometimes we'll storage of this data. And after then, we can give the output, and this output can must be some information. So from the input to output, we are transferring the data to the information, and this information will help the users to make the decisions. So in the big data, we can see that the very important will be focused on how we process and then also how the storage of it. Now let's look at the features of the big data. We can see in most articles will discuss these 4 features. The first one, we see that there is a huge volume. It means that the amount of data generated is bigger and bigger. It's very, very large. And also we can see the speed at which the data are generated. So we see that it's a high velocity. And then the third one we see is the huge variety. It means that the type and the structure of the data generated have very, very different kind of forms. It's have a very kind of diversity. And the fourth features here we see is the uncertainty veracity. And it means that the data generated sometimes we should consider its reliability, because a lot of data are generated, and which one is very reliable, that will be a question. Then we'll see what's the possible source of the big data. Basically, the data can be internal generated or external input. For the internal generated, we can see that because of the information technology progress, and the more data of the transaction can be captured automatically. And for the external input, we can see that in the same supply chain, for our entities internal data maybe can be one external data source. For example, as I say that we will have a lot of different sensors. This kind of sensors will automatically gather the data. For example, the RFID can let us identify who's the members enter or what kind of goods are processed. And also we can have the GPS data. And then this kind of data will correct with maybe the vehicle movings. And also we can have the audio streams. Sometimes we'll have the meetings or telephone recordings and the media audio streams, also audio surveillance streams. All this can help us to understand different situations. And at last, we have the video streams, and it can be video surveillance, news-based video, or phone video recordings. For example, some of the non-employee stores.
YouTube and
we can have the video. This video can tag the action of the consumers. So we can then afterward to analyze how the consumer review the products. Maybe some products are interesting by them, and but maybe the price or other considerations, then he put the products back to the shelf and then try to choose another product. So all this information can collect it together, and there will be maybe when you can analyze, then there will be provide some insights for you to understand what's going on to the consumer's behavior. And then today I will focus because the information maybe from accounting it's very important for management. And for the managerial accounting, traditionally we say that we will use the information generated from accounting records, and then we can tell the manager to carry out their duties. But when we burden the issues or the background of the management accounting, we can say that their jobs or that support managers decision making by supplying any kind of information that needed that can help the corporation to do the decisions such as planning, comparing topics, or evaluating performance. So here I will divide it into three parts for the duties of management accountants. The first one is data generation and storage. And the second is data processing, verification, and analysis. And the last one is the reporting and decision support. And for every steps here, I will discuss the opportunities of the big data and also the challenge with the big data to the management accountant. First, here we see what's the opportunity with big data in the steps of data generation and the storage. The first one, we can see that we'll have integrate new data channels and also unstructured data. For the decision-making data, most of the time we see that traditionally we'll focus on the past and the highly aggregated data. But for the management accountant, we'll see that more future-oriented or real-time data will be increasing, and all this can become true with the big data. And the second, here we'll combine the structured and unstructured data. For structured data, we can see that it's like the most time the relational database. Most of companies now they use, for example, the enterprise system, or we call that the ERP, enterprise planning resources. All this kind of database we see is structured because the data are organized, well organized with only maybe the characteristic and the numeric numbers. But when we see that now with big data, we can collect more unstructured data, such as social media or mobile applications, maybe from like the GPS signals. The second we can see is that we have automatic generation data. Here we see that as the maybe the machine learning technology, modern big data technology are able to automatically gather the data without help from humans. And the third one, we see is that the cost savings. Now, because the information technology, we can see that not all of data should be stored in company-owned computer centers. We can have more cost-efficient way, for example, using the cloud computing. As you have can see that for maybe Amazon, the company had created the Amazon Web Service, and for the maybe small or medium company, if they don't have such resources to create their own one information technology applications, then they can apply to AWS and to try to using the very high developed and the comparative applications to have them using in the decision making. And the others we can see is the outsource. Maybe we can outsource the storage of our data to external service. And last we see is that big data will help us to create, increase the value of the data. For example, in the retailer sellers, the real-time data make us possible maybe to reduce in sales or in logistics. So for the management content, I think they should identify both the potential and the value of the unstructured data that can help in considering the impact in the financial status. And now let's turn to what kind of challenge with the big data. The first one is because we see that the first features is the large volumes of the data. And with the large data, we see how to select the data and also fill the data will be a very important one. And the second one we see is the information overload and the data veracity. All these are also come from the features of big data. For the information overload, then we can see that how we should cope with this kind of problem. We'll see how the data quality it will be very important issue. And to discuss with the veracity, we now need to verify what the data is reasonable, correct, or how it's corrected. How is the maybe the validity, completeness, and accuracy. And the next one with the challenge is is there any qualified personnel, because with this big data will boost the some technology, and so maybe you should learn more how to cope with this big data issue. And also in a company we need the top management support because of this new information technology. We should have more investments. So the manager must support this kind of investment, and then we can have more of the big data. Second, I'll move on to the second step. It's about the data processing, verification, and analysis. And okay, the first one we are talking about the same is the opportunities with big data. The first one we see is the time savings because the technology improvement, so we can have more faster analysis of this big data. And then the faster analysis then we can have more faster decision making. All this will help us to maybe contribute to the competitive advantages. And the second one is the real time of data. It's now available for company to collect all these data in, I think, no any seconds lost. So with these internet applications and sensors, we can collect the data and analyze the data, and so will be make better match to the maybe the user's requirement. But we also have challenges here. The first one is now we need a new technology for data analysis. The first one is maybe after the intensive analysis of the data, the problem is how can we draw the correct conclusion with this large amount of data. And with new technology, here, at least some of this one is about the database. The first one, maybe they have non-SQL. All this can help us to deal with the unstructured data. And we maybe have using the analytical database that will help us to make the database together. And with the Hadoop, we can combine a lot of different servers together and to cope with more complex database systems. And so as a management content, now there will be more study about the database management. And maybe we should considering is the loss of data sovereignty. The first one we can see is that because the applications improvement, then the top management can handle the data analysis by themselves. So how can we do with the management content's role? And then the second one is that maybe the information systems experts can do some data analysis. And then what's our management content do? So this will be the challenges for the management contents. And to the third steps is reporting and diligence approach. The first one I also discussed is the opportunities. And here we can see that with the big data, it will improve a lot of. The first is the diligence approach for the top management, because we have said that the time saving of the processing data, and so we will help us to not just to deal with the data. We have more time to do the actual analysis of data. And the second is about the data interpretation and the recommendation. And for example, now we can integrate the unstructured data together in our analysis. All this can help us make more insightful advice to our top of management. The second, with the big data, we can help to improve the operation planning because the processing power on computer hardware. So we can make more scenario and discuss different scenarios, what's happened and what's the outcome. We can using the to do the planning in advance. And also now we should familiar with more statistical methods. We can using maybe, for example, time series analysis that can help us to do the planning. And the next one is about the strategic planning. Because using the big data, we can detect or estimate the trends and risk. And all of this will help us get better decision and becoming possible. So all these will be the opportunities with big data to the decision support. And for challenges with big data in the reporting and decision support, the first one we can see is about the changing coastal structure. Because with the big data, we now can collect more information. So maybe we're considering maybe different cost drivers, and also we can re-examine our coastal structure. The second is that we should review traditional management accounting techniques. For example, maybe the activity-based costing, target costing, or product life cycle costing. All this will integrate new information collected from the big data. And so the most important one, I think, will combine with the unstructured data together to explore more about the cost structures. And the second challenge, it's a pity, is that maybe we make first decisions faster, because when you gather a lot of information, it's risky for us just to blind trust this kind of information. So here we see is that human wisdom is also very critical to us. We should ask the questions about the relevance of the information gathered. So when we understanding this kind of challenges, now we'll discuss some of the maybe the limitation when we process information in big data. The first one, as I have said, is the information overload, because here we'll see a large information. So past study has seen that the large volume of accounting information maybe leads to suboptimal financial judgment. And the second, and also maybe we need a clear understanding of the data, quality of the data, and the data relevance. The second maybe we will face is the limitation about the information relevance. Here we see a dilution effect. It means that there will presence of significant amount of non-diagnostic information. It will be a noise. Then it will distract our decision making. So all this will lower our quality of decision making. And the third one is the pattern recognition. Because past research has seen that sometimes we are not very adept at recognize patterns in financial data, and we cannot work very well to apply knowledge to the current judgment test. And so here we should pay more attention to how the patterns is the information that created to us. And the fourth is ambiguity. It arises from variation in the amount and type of information available. Maybe it's come from the difference in source of reliability and lack of the casual knowledge of the events. And so we are considering is about the nature of the constructed data, and then it maybe sometimes we have a difficulty in treating the data that is suitable for our decision or our judgment. And so when we face this kind of problems, then we'll see is when we using the big data in our business analytics, how can we do in this kind of problems. Here we see is that the business analytics we say is that is using the data, information technology, and the statistical analysis, the quantitative methods, and the mathematical computer-based model to help manager gain improvement insight. And so for the management content, we see that it will create us how we can help our management duties and goals. And there are 3 dimensions for this kind of business analytics. The first one is descriptive and predictive and prescriptive analytics. So the first one we discussed is descriptive analytics. This kind of analysis to answer the questions to what had happened. So in this kind of analytics, we will summarize what has happened and also form the basis of many continuous motor error systems. Which will help us to compare the transaction with the benchmark or threshold that we have established. Most of the time when we're using the descriptive analytics, it's about the historical data. And the possible techniques for us to cope with this kind of data, we're using the descriptive statistics visualization, cluster method, schema and rank creations, or sometimes maybe you can use the text mining and models. And the second we can use in the data to do is predictive analytics. This kind of analytics will answer the question of what could happen. So it's a kind of prediction. In this kind of analytics, we're using historical data over time and help us to make the predicts of the future events. And the possible techniques for this kind of analytics will be maybe the artificial neural networks, then the time series, maybe the ARIMA, autoregressive integrated moving average, or Bayesian theory, regression analysis, structure models, or Monte Carlo study simulations. And for the prescriptive analytics, maybe here we should answer using this kind of analytics to answer the question of what should be done. So this kind of analytics will go beyond the descriptive and the predictive analytics, and it will recommend one or more solutions and show the likely outcome of each one. The possible techniques maybe the artificial neural network, autoregressive integrated moving average, regression analysis, Monte Carlo simulation, and also the optimizations. I think for this kind of analytics, for example, when you're using maybe the Google Maps, the Google Maps you can using is to help you to decide the way or the route from your start point to the destination, and then it will help you to decide what you can do or what you should take, the way you go. So this kind will be a kind of prescriptive analytics. And so let's quickly to look back what we have talked about the issue with the big data. Here we'll make the summary of what we have discussed. The first one, we have discussed the 4 features of the big data. There are huge variance, huge veracity, huge variety, and uncertain veracity. And with these features of big data, then we discuss about the opportunities with big data. So in the 3 steps, data generation, storage, data processing, and data reporting, we have discussed the opportunities that we can use in this data to help these management accountants to do their jobs. And also we see some challenges with the big data. Most of the time we can see is that how can we use in this kind of data together with to find out the insights of the data to help us to do the judgments and also the decision makings. And also we have discussed is the behavior implication, and we see that with the big data we will face maybe the information overload, information relevance, pattern recognition, and also the ambiguity. And at least when we using the big data with our business analytics, we have described you can using the big data with the descriptive, predictive, or prescriptive analytics. And no matter what kind of business analytics you are going to do, I think that the most important is that you should familiar with the statistics and also the basic database management system. And for the management accountant's duties, you are going to help the management to make the decision. So you should pay more attention to the strategic business analyze. And of course, our background is accounting. So the solid accounting study is also very important. And all of these four parts will help you to do the, maybe we see that business intelligence. And from the business intelligence, we can see that you will use the big data both with structured or unstructured data together, and then it will help you to find out the insights from the information, and then that will help your management accountant's role to support the information and the decision making of the top management. Okay, so let's some of the reference here. I think that you can find more information in my lectures, more details from maybe these four articles. Okay, thanks for listening, and I hope that you will understanding more about what's the issue with the big data, and then you may be planning how will you study in the future for your program in the master degree in accounting. Thanks.
Thank you, Professor Wang, for insightful presentation. One key feature of Industry 4.0 is integration, where machines, devices, sensors, and people are connected, in which big data play an important role. Big data refers to the generation, storage, processing, verification, and analysis of large, highly versatile, and quickly growing volumes of data with the objective of creating valuable information. Because the main role of management accountant is to provide valuable information for supporting managerial tasks such as planning and control, the knowledge of big data becomes significant for management accountant nowadays. Big data poses some challenges such as information overload and lack of support from staff and top manager. However, it also provides many opportunities for improving decision-making of top management, such as time saving and availability of data in real time. Further discussion about development of accounting and management in 4.0 era will lead by Dr. Haris Suharman from Master of Accounting Universitas Kristen Maranatha, Indonesia. Dr. Haris Suharman gained his PhD in accounting from Universitas Padjadjaran, Bandung. Currently, he holds many strategic positions, such as Head of Accounting Doctoral Program, Universitas Padjadjaran, Audit Committee at MWA Universitas Padjadjaran, and PT Pegadaian. And he also a financial controller at PT Pikiran Rakyat. Good morning, Dr. Hari. The platform is yours.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Tan Minh Quang. Okay. The Honorable General Secretary of University of Kristen Maranatha, Mr. Ravi Tala, and also Mr. Tan Minh Quang as the Dean of Faculty of Economic and Business, University of Kristen Maranatha, and Ms. Rapina as a Head of Accounting Program Study, and of course, Professor Xiao Xin Huang, the Honorable. Sorry if the pronunciation is not correct. Okay, nice to meet you. Okay. Hope you're in a good shape. Okay. First of all, I would like to express my appreciation to the University of Kristen Maranatha of having me an opportunity to give international guest lecture. I think this is international guest lecture, okay, because in the first place, I didn't have a good understanding, or I didn't have proper information that today it will be held in English. Okay. I thought I was in Indonesia in Bahasa, so please forgive me if I'm not well prepared using English. Okay. Okay. Can send my PowerPoint? Okay, thank you very much. Okay, today I have an opportunity to share about what I know and what I have learned, both in the academic or in the field, about accounting management and industrial revolution 4.0, a challenge for accountants and managers in the era of digitalization. Okay. As you know, Professor Wang has already mentioned and give a good understanding about the evolution of 4.0 and the way of the big data should be analyzed, and how can the management accountant can benefit from those kind of data analytical. And in the digitalization era of 4.0, we have to face many things that are quite easy to cope with, but you know, as a profession and also as an accountant, you have to follow what is going on in the field, especially in the manufacturing. That's why I try to provide some insight about how the accountants should prepare themselves and also to catch up with the information and also the business practice in the real world. Okay, next. Okay, this is how what we can learn about the pandemic of COVID-19. Okay, and here we can see that from in Indonesia, it starts from March 2 of 2020 up till now, and we can see there's still having a pandemic COVID, And also we find a new kind of coffee. Okay, and as would you mind make it larger? I cannot see it. I'm sorry. The PowerPoint. Can you click the button? Okay. Okay. Now the previous one. Okay. Thank you. Okay. See, from the and would you mind click the bottom key at the bottom? Yeah. Okay. That's right. Okay. Okay. Start moving. Okay, that's good. Okay, I'm sorry about that because maybe because of my eyes, I cannot see little things. Okay, we can see this business activities from month of second, 20,000 and 2020 up till now. We can see how it moves from month of two. Okay, you can see that a lot of business organization have different kind of activities and they operate different kind. And we can see that they have to compete each other, especially when they try to make it more efficient and having a competitive advantage. In April 10, okay, we can see there's a lot of infrastructure was affected by the COVID-19, and they have to survive, and they have tried to change the kind of they operate. And we can see in September 2020, they try to make certain kind of trying to adapt, and they try to adjust what kind of activities they should have to do in order to compete with the other companies, especially when we talk about the global competition. But as we know now, in the next stage, we can see that how the companies should respond and recovery, especially after they come to the new normal. Okay, next. Okay, next. Okay. From this figure, we can see that due to the pandemic, we can see how we have to accelerate the digital transformation. From the Gartner, we have studied here. There are 7 in 10 board of directors have accelerated the digital business initiative that wake of COVID-19 disruption. And from this graph, you can see that the acceleration of digital intelligent institution it has about it's quite, I think this is quite high. Okay, I think it has about 69%, yeah, 69%, and increased focus on improving operational excellence, also 60%. Okay, and before COVID-19, we can see the productivity of the employees is about 39%. Okay, but shifting due to COVID-19, we can see that the percentage of funding digital innovation, it has 63%, and capital expenditure for the investment, we have 35%. in 2021, okay, we can see that the funding of digital innovation, it has 60%, and capital expenditure for investment about 50%. So from this figure, we have an idea that the pandemic have a positive effect, especially for changing the business activities when we use technology and we use electronic through the what we call as digital transformation now. Okay, from according to the second slide, can you go on next to the second slide? The next slide. Okay, from this slide we can see that how the companies have changed their strategy, because many companies now are moving towards long-term planning as one of their strategic, and also they have to adapt with the digital technologies, because to compete with the other companies and also to increase their value, especially when they try to improve their quality of the product and services, they must try to have a flexible operation, especially when they use the automation. And now we can see that how the companies are trying to implement, and a lot of companies have implemented, but still we have a lack of experts in doing so. And even though they have done that, still we can find waste in their business process. So this is what we call as the strategic should be changed, especially when we come across with the digitization era, especially in the 4.0. And when we talk about why we need to invest, as the previous slide mentioned, that about above 50%, nowadays many investors try to invest their money in the capital expenditure due to the high technology in order to provide and to achieve their goal. The target of the investor in investing in their technology, because they want to come and to provide a better customer experience as required by the customer, that they ask for better quality in providing products and services, and also they ask for the speed of distributing their product or services, and of course they ask for trying to eliminate waste, especially for increasing their efficiency in the business process. And they ask also for the new technology which can change the previous technology that are not well running. So when you expect the value from the digital technology, then we can see from this data, we have 54% they ask for the increased profits, and 50% having a better customer experience and achieve cost saving. 36% they ask for growing value, or they ask for the value added in their business, about 29%, and having opening market 29%, and etc. etc. Especially for preventing disruption from the competition, or trying to having a barrier to entry about 11%. This is how they try to gain, or they try to expect from investing their money to the new technology in the companies. especially for trying to be flexible as much as they can, and also to try to provide customized product that are really best in best quality. Next. Okay, this is the industrial erosion that have been mentioned by Professor Huang. We have Industry 1.0, Industry 2.0, Industry 3.0, and Industry 4.0, which are reflected by cyber physical system and Internet of Things network. Okay, 1.0 is 1784. 2.0 starts from 1870, and 3.0 in 1969 up to 2010. Okay. And it was reflected by the having automation and computers and electronics in their companies in their business process. Next. Okay. In digital industry era, we can see that we have several threat and opportunity, and we can see we have a certain time to market. So we have to try to make try to reduce or eliminate the lead time, and try to be as fast as you can to respond what the customer needs, and this can be implemented in the company's manufacturing. Okay, the threat that you can see that in the era industrial globalization, according to Gail Leonhardt, it takes about 1 to 1.5 billion since 2015 up to 2025. People can lose their job because they can be changed with the machine or automation. Okay, and it takes about 65% of the elementary school nowadays do not know what kind of job that they can have in the futures. Okay, so for the companies, they are asked to be more flexible. They have to increase their flexibility, especially when they produce mass production. They have to answer, and they have to catch up with the market that are more volatile, and they ask the productivity to be more higher. And boost efficiency, we can see we have an opportunity with the industrial era that in the near future, besides losing a job for certain people, but also they can provide a new job, especially in up to 2025, about 2.1 million people, because there will be a new kind of a job workforce. And also, according to the World Economic Forum, they can eliminate the carbon emission about 36 billion metrics due to the implementation of digital automation, because we are going to have a green climate now. Next. Okay, now, I'm sorry. Okay, excuse me. Now we can see that what should the accountant do, because now they have been challenged yesterday. Now we're going to have a big data. They will provide a big data, as Professor Huang mentioned previously. So now we can see the dashboard. We have a financial report. We have several kind of report. We have statistic data. We have several kind of data that should be analyzed by the accountant. So the management accountant today, they have to have a good insight from the data. With those kind of data, they have to identify what kind of data that are relevant for the companies, especially when try to cope with several kind of problem, and also try to reduce their waste, and also when they try to make a more action, especially doing corrective action or making certain adaptability. And they have to have a good understanding of the statistical, because nowadays with the big data, you have to analyze. We have several kind of descriptive statistical data, and we, as you know, when we talk about descriptive data, we can have a good understanding about how to be more precise. How can you focus on, like when we have certain kind like data Pareto with the statistic, by using, for instance, by using Minitab application, we can have a Pareto figure with this kind of application. Then you can focus on what's the 20% and what is 80%, so we can identify what kind of things that you have to be concerned. And also we can have we have to make sure the data that provide that are analyzed should be relevant, reliable, accurate, okay, and it should be comparable, and it visible to give and make in several kind of performance. Okay, and also you can give a recommendation, or you can suggest, okay, or you can be as what we call as giving what we call you know, when being a accountant, you can assist the manager or the management, okay, about how the business are doing, and what kind of what kind of situation that affect the companies, especially when we talk about the external factor, for instance, like the pandemic, as of course, about the economic situation, and about the competitor, okay, and also how the digital technology will be affected when you come across with a certain kind of robotic automation, okay, and you can manipulate the data. You can also cooperate, and you can operate a lot of kind of automation or robotic that are used and doing operated by remote by the artificial intelligence. And also you can come across with how to maintain in the futures, especially when you talk about the sustainability, especially when we talk about the non-financial reporting, when they can assess and assist the manager in making proper process in business, okay? And also about the cybersecurity that you have to be concerned, because the data, what we know is that we only use the data, and most of the data were being inputted by the machine also. Okay. Next. Next. Okay.
Halo Pak Hari. Are you still there? We cannot hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Yes. Thank you very much. So this unstable for the internet. Sorry about that. Okay. Okay. Now today, the management accountant should face several things in order to be relevant and competitive in the near future, especially when we talk about the environment of the business, and you have to respond the business. And the management accountant should have several kind of tools in order to identify and cope with and providing a suggestion in problem solving. Next. Okay. This is one of kind that we need to, as you know, when we talk about the management function, we have what we call as a plan, do, check, and act. And so with the digitalization era, we have to use Internet of Things in trying to, trying to cope and try to assist the managers in having this kind of a cycle, especially when we talk about the quality problems. And here we can see this lot of thing. When you talk about planning, then you have to use several kind of tools like 5 why, cause and effect diagram, or Ichikawa diagrams. Of course, when you do that, you use Internet of Things. You can use robotic automation, and you can use certain kind or several kind of tools that can provide you with the data analytics came from the big data. Do, you have to change the system and check analyzing the result, and also act if you need a certain change. So this is what we call as planning and control function from the management. Next. Okay, when we talk about planning, the one of tools we can use lean manufacturers. It means that you have to try to eliminate the waste, and this so we have several kind stages. And of course, the goal of the lean is trying to improve the value added and try to eliminate the waste, so the customer can be happy with the product or the service that will be given by the companies. We have identified, according to the expert, they have identified actually not 7 but 8. Okay, mostly is 7. Okay, first, overproduction defect, unnecessary inventory, inappropriate processing, excessive transportation, waiting, unnecessary motion, and of course the idle of the expert or the talent that the company is have. Okay, so this kind of waste can be identified during the business process, trying to transform the input to the output and trying to deliver the product or service to the customer. So when you talk about the input, process, and output, so in that case, you can find and try to implement the big data or the analytic or the digitalization that have been mentioned by the Professor Huang previously. Next. Okay, so when you try to cope with the problem, okay, actually you have to try to identify by using the root cause analysis. After that, we can use 5 whys. So this is what kind of why that you have to identify. Then you have to try to answer it, especially when you try to solve the problem after you identify the causes. The first why, okay, why are they happening? For instance, because we have a bad transportation or storage or packaging. The storage we use, for instance, with the enterprise resource planning, we can have Internet of Things between the manufacturer with the vendors. They can have a real-time system, so we can have a just-in-time system in order to eliminate the lead time, and also trying to try to have as minimum as you can the inventory. Second why is why, for instance, why we have a bad packaging. Okay, why using not a suitable quality cushion? The fourth why is why use only one type of all products, and the fifth why is why not design and test the cushion for each type of product. So this is the five why when we talk about there's cracks on the product, when we talk about the failure in a certain product. Okay, next. Okay, next. Okay, this is the fishbone diagram or root cause analysis. Okay, we talk at Ichikawa. Okay, and we can see we try to identify the cracks on the product, and we can see there's something wrong with the storage, transportation, and packaging. So we have to identify the causes, and we have to try to provide a certain solution after having identified the causes. For instance, when you talk about too much storage, so we have to identify, is it because of the wrong product management, or because it's a lack of training, or because of the careless of handling or incompetent employees. So this is the cause of the crack on the product. Okay, next. Okay, this is the next plan, do, check, and act. Okay, and this is certain kind of how we can try to improve our product quality, especially when you talk about the plan, do, check, and act, and we can see the stage of how to do so. Okay, next. Okay, so when you're doing the plan, do, check, and act. So this is the do. So you have to test the material, you have to design. Afterwards, you can see when you talk testing the material, then you find whether it's eco-friendly, the material, or the material is accepted or not. When you talk about the design, you have to anticipate whether the new packaging design will eliminate the causes of the cracking or not. Because so in the next stage, we can see the failure mode and effect analysis in the type of the design stage. Next. Okay. This is do. You can see this is the packaging. Okay, the design of the packaging, the product of the packaging that should be in the good quality. You can see above the box we have a certain kind of table, and whether this table can be handled by this box or not. Okay, next. Okay, the practical application you have to check. It means that you have to control whether the check, okay, you have to check whether there's a good quality or still you have a bad quality, or something that can make a certain kind box that can be cracked. So you have to check whether it is good or not, and check and to check. After that, you can analyze and compare with the with the result and the target. So we can see the standard, whether it's comply with the standard or not, and whether we produce according to the standard or to the target that we have to achieve. Okay, next. Okay, when you have to act, okay, we have seen in here, this is kind of workflow diagram. Okay, when we're talking about the quality improvement of the sustainable packaging, so we can see here how you do the you follow the standard of operation. Okay, and we can see the packing list check, and then we have to eye check before packing, and then you have to arrange all pre-packing product, etc., etc. Okay, so we can see that the box should be sealed and load on the pallet, and etc., etc. Okay, and this should be carried out by packaging worker, and who is the person in charge. Okay, next. Okay, Okay, another tools for management, we have a failure mode and effect analysis. This is at the design stage. We can see and we try to anticipate whether the products is a good shape, when we can anticipate the risk and how to manage the risk. And also we have the production part approval process part, because when we produce something, so we have to cooperate with the vendor. When you cooperate with the vendor, so you need to use a certain tools. For instance, like when you talk about just-in-time system, we have a real-time system with the vendor. So we have to make sure that the part that's supplied by the supplier equal to the what we have standard. And also we have a value streaming mapping. It is a certain kind of mapping to identify, and we can see whether the waste can be eliminated in what stage and where that should be removed. Okay. Next. Okay, this is the failure mode and effect analysis. We can see what kind of failure that we have to anticipate and what kind of solution that we have to mitigate. Okay, next. Okay, this is the production part approval process. We can see here, we have the supplier. At the left side, we have the organization, and we have the customer at the right side. We can see the input, process, and output in the organization. So for the organization, we need a certain kind of part from the customer or from the supplier, and we have to make sure that the parts from the suppliers are good enough and according to the spec that required by the manufacturer, in order to deliver a product or product according to the customer's request. Next. And this is the value stream mapping. We can see here at the below, we can see the lead and lead factor. We can see the value added and non-value added. We can see how many minutes it takes from the supplier to the companies, okay, to the manufacturer. We have 110 minutes. In the manufacturer, we have 150 minutes. From 5 to 4, we have 250 minutes. From 4 to 4, we have 900 minutes. And to the customer, we have 935 minutes. So with this kind of mapping, can you improve the process? Can you speed up the process without having a non-value added product or services? Next. Okay, this is the value stream mapping, especially in trying to produce a sliding gear. Okay, we can see how it works from the supplier to the customer. Okay, I think in the spare time you can read it. Okay, next. And to evaluate the performance, we have one kind of tools, what we call as balance scorecard. Okay, and this is, we have 4 perspectives that can be used in order to measure and to assess the performance of the companies, especially in the manufactured companies, when we try to identify the internal business process and also to identify whether the learning and growth perspective can improve the customer's perspective and affect the financial perspective, of course. I think this is what we need to know. The digital era or the 4.0 can affect the companies, and therefore the management accountants should be well prepared and have a good understanding how to assist and suggest the management in order to give a good understanding and also make sure that they can make a better decision, especially in trying to cope with their goal in order to improve or increase their value. Thank you. Next. Okay, I think that's all about the management accounting, the management accountant challenge in the era of the digital 4.0. Okay, thank you. Okay, back to Mr. Tanin Kwang.
Thank you, Dr. Hari, for helping us understand the impact of Industry 4.0 on the role of management accountant and many management tools to improve the business process. I also have some notes on key points on your presentation. Pandemic accelerates digital transformation. The data shows a significant increase of investment of new technology during this period. So why do the company make such kind of large investment? Because it allows them to shorten time to market, increase flexibility, and boost efficiency. Certainly, this change creates the new role of accountant management, namely as an insight provider on data, business advisor, and data manipulator. To support this new role of the accountant needs to gain skills and knowledge on management tools, such as failure mode and effect analysis, benchmarking, ABC, ERP, balance scorecard, and more. I think, ladies and gentlemen, this is the time for Q&A session. So I would like to invite all the participants to use the raise hand feature or type your question in the chat room box, please. You may raise your hand, or you can just turn on the mic and you can give a question, please. Okay, while we are waiting the participation from the participant, I have some question here. The question for the Professor Huang and Dr. Hari. Based on your experience, what stage is the business in Taiwan for Professor Huang and Dr. Hari in Indonesia? In what stage in business in Taiwan or Indonesia in the phase of Industry 4.0? Are they just at the early stage or already at the advanced stage? So we can compare the business in Taiwan and Indonesia. In what level are they now? Okay, I think I give the first opportunity to Professor Huang. Please, Professor Huang.
Yeah. Hello, Professor Kwang. So for the business in Taiwan, that most of the time I think nowadays you can see is that semiconductor manufacturing is very famous. But I will mention another industry, that's the textile industry. In the past maybe 20 years, I think the textile industry in Taiwan is also the world top. And as I have collected the data nowadays for this lecture, I noticed that one company that they will utilize the idea of Industry 4.0, because in that kind of company in a textile is a fiber and dyeing industry. And the process in this kind of industry, they will take a long time to weave the clothes. So because their manufacturing conditioning is in the maybe using a lot of machine, and then that will adjust a lot of the parameters to check how the product is produced. And when they use integrate the idea of Industry 4.0, they related the Internet of Things. So they will collect a lot of data in manufacturing. And after that, they can then reduce the processing times and then reduce the waste of time. That will create more valuable main products to the customers. So that's examples that I can discuss with this Industry 4.0. So.
Okay, thank you, Professor Huang. So now we would like to hear the response from Dr. Hari. Based on your experience, in what stage are we now in the phase of Industry 4.0? Do you think most companies in Indonesia already in the advanced stage, in the intermediate level, or they just begin or enter this industry?
Okay, thank you for the question, Mr. Tang. Actually, when we talk about the state-owned company, mostly they have already used this kind of digital things in their companies. Yeah, most of the state-owned company and also the huge companies in Indonesia, I think most of them they use Internet of Things or they use robotic automation and etc. because they are asked and that are supported to use something that can improve their efficiency and activities. So mostly they have to use robotic automation in their companies, and most of private sector, especially when you talk about the retail. Okay, like a retail, they also use. I think they also use those kind of things because, like Indomart, something like that. I'm not promoting certain retail, like Alfamart, etc. I think they use what we call as a saturation strategy. Okay, so they use electronics and they use automation, and nowadays we can see the finance company like banks, they are trying maybe in the new future we are not going to use automation again, ATM, okay, because you use mobile banking and we can use the application, we can use the internet, we use Wi-Fi. So now we are in the digitalization era. I think most companies, and also for the startup, like Ojol, Ojek, they use Internet of Things in doing business. So I think not in the early stage, I think above the early stage. I think most of our companies using those kind of things. Otherwise, they cannot be excellence. They cannot compete in, especially when they try to be sustainable as scale. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hari. We are still waiting the question from the participant. Please, have any question? Okay, you may for the participant from Indonesia, you may type your question in Bahasa. We will help you to translate your question to English, especially if the question is intended to be answered by the Professor Huang. Please. We have one question here. Okay. Is Industry 4.0 era still require Bachelor of Accounting and Master of Accounting? Okay. I think this question can be answered by the two speakers. I give the first opportunity to Professor Huang, please. Professor Huang.
Yeah, thanks, Professor Guan. Can you please mention the question again? I didn't catch. Oh yeah, here I see.
We can see in the chat room the first question. And now we have two questions, but please answer the first one. Is 4.0 era still required? Do you think the students need to go to the university?
Yeah. Okay. In my opinions, that maybe you can take for some advice that because that in this kind of industry 4.0, so they'll combine a lot of different things. So I think for the accounting students, you still have to focus on what you have learned. And because we get a solid accounting educations, so we can deal with a lot of information of about financial. But it is also very important to integrate the non-financial information and also a lot of the unstructured data that we can get it from the big data. So you should try to practice more about what's the business practice is going on, and then you can integrate all this information together to help you to explore more insight for business information or judgment. That is the things I think most important. And for the technical part, I think you don't need to afraid of that because most of the time the basic statistics still can help you to work well in this area. And now you can add some basic knowledge about database. I think it will also very helpful for you. Thanks.
Okay, thank you for your answer, Professor Huang. Now I give the opportunity to Dr. Hari to give his response to the first question. Please.
Okay,
Dr.
thank
Hari.
you. Okay, talking about 4.0 in relation whether you need to go to the university to learn about those things. I think in the university we teach a lot of things, not only in management accounting, but there are a lot of subject that relates with this kind of industry. There's a lot of subject that you need to know and understand, what kind of courses that you need to take, and etc. So of course, when we talk about education, I think you need to go to the university. But of course, you can go to, if you cannot go to the university, of course you can take certain courses outside the university, especially in a certain subject. But when you talk about having a certification in a certain subject, for instance, a certification, you only have a good understanding about a certain knowledge. That's why I suggest that it's better for you to go to the university, and you can grasp a lot of things that you need to understand, especially when you talk about how to compete and how to solve the problem in doing so the companies. Thank you.
Okay, so Dr. Hari say it's still important for you to go to the schools.
Yeah, it's true.
And perhaps it's more important now to go to the school because in the school you can learn a lot of things. Then you can be ready to face the industry 4.0. I think that, or maybe we can put in this way the question. Do you think the robot can replace the accountant job? What do you think, from Dr. Hari? Do you
Okay,
think the
of course.
robot
When
someday
you talk
can
about-
replace the accountant job?
As I mentioned in my previous slide, yes, of course, several jobs can be replaced by the robotic, by automation, but still certain job cannot be removed or replaced by the robotic, because a robot only is a robot because people develop and design it by using a certain program, not a program, arithmetic and logical, arithmetic, not arithmetic, algorithm and logic thing. Okay, but and they use artificial intelligence in the robot. Okay, still they cannot make a certain decision like a human being as a professional. So there's a lot of things that can be still can be still human beings still important. Content professional is still important in doing so in the near future, even though we are entering the 4.0 or 5.0. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now I move to the Professor Huang. Professor Huang,
Yeah.
now we have the second question. Can you read the second question from Pascalis?
The second one, yeah.
He asked whether a problem like a crack in packaging can be solved by the IoT. That's the point of his question.
Yeah, okay. I think with the IoT, then more of the data will collect it, and but the data collected, you still have to maybe to verify which one is more important to the decision you are making. So the first one is that you should understand thoroughly about what the situation or the decision environment you are faced. And then you can deal with the more relevant information for you. And because even the technology improvement, they can help you to maybe the simulating the most many different scenarios, and all of this can help you to understand what's the maybe the outcome of your decision making. So the most important part is that the human are still the one that to make the decision, and you will carry out all the responsibility that you make this decision. And then with this, maybe the big data come from the Internet of Things, they can help you to understand the way you make your decisions to improvement to maybe all your corporations or the society, I think.
Okay, thank you. So the humans still play an important role in making decisions about the problem. Okay,
Right.
Thank you, Professor Huang. Dr. Haris, so what is your opinion for the second question?
About the crack?
About the crack?
About the crack, yes.
Can
Thank you.
IoT solve that
Okay,
problem?
as you know, when we use Internet of Things, okay, in certain companies, especially in the manufacturing companies, as I mentioned before, that certain companies should cooperate with the supplier. So once they have a material from the suppliers, then a certain kind of application can identify whether the spare part or whether the materials are good enough or not, or what we call as the same as what we require. The spec is the right or not? Is the same as the standard or not? So when it's not the same as the standard, then the technology or the system can identify it. Okay, the system can identify it, then they can reject the material came from the supplier before entering the processing. So that's why we need Internet of Things, because with the Internet of Things, the supplier knows what we ask for, and we know when they should deliver the material. When they enter the shop floor, then the machine can detect whether the material is good enough or not good enough to be transformed to the output. That's why we need a digital now, because with this digitalization era, we don't need, especially at the shop floor, we don't need human anymore. We don't need a certain employee with a certain qualification at the shop floor, but they can be replaced by the technology, by the automation, by the robotic. For instance, at the automobile factory, we can see that you cannot see painter anymore because they are replaced by the robotic, and they can paint the automobile, the car, slightly, not slightly, I think more different compared to the human being when they try to paint the car. So we can see like that. So with those kind of things, they can identify whether the paint are good enough or not, because with our bare eyes we cannot see whether the paint is good or not. But with the technology, with the Internet of Things, which they have a certain metrics and measurement, then they can identify whether this product is good enough or not good enough. So when we find a crack in the packaging, we cannot see whether this box is good enough or not. But with the technology, with the certain kind of application they use, they can see whether the standards are fulfilled or not. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hari. Now we have another question from Johannes Felix Gunawan. Okay, Johannes Felix, the point of his question is, what is the ability that the accountant must possess to survive in this 4.0 era? I think that's the question from Johannes. Okay, Dr. Hari, now it's I give you the first opportunity.
Okay. So what kind of ability that we must process? Okay. Accountant should be support with with technology information knowledge. Okay, we have to understand what kind of communication that we are going to use, what kind of data that we have to cope with, and how we have to analyze the data. It seems that, as Professor Huang mentioned, that we need to understand about the statistic, because most of the data can be provided like in the statistic figure. So that's why, and also with the algorithm. Okay, you have to have a good understanding with those kind of things in order to analyze certain kind of data that are really needs for the company, especially when you try to cope with the problem. For instance, like this, when you try to identify in the automobile factory, for instance, we need a certain material that are workable or not, okay, and whether the spare parts are good enough or not. Then we have what we call as PPAP, production part approval, things like that. With these kind of things, when you implement those kind of application, then we have something like early warning system. They can detect whether the spare part is good enough or not. Because, when we use our bare eyes, we cannot detect it. Okay, so that's why we need to have a good understanding about the big data. We need to understand about the cloud. We need to understand the blockchain. We need to understand how to analyze the data by using also the statistic, and how you use several kind of tools in trying to solve the problems. We have, as we mentioned, we have like failure mode effect analysis, we have root cause analysis, we have 5Y, and we have 5WQH, and also we have several kind, lean manufacturing, lean Six Sigma, and etc. So those tools can help accountant or management as to solve the problem, and also needs to be support by the from the top, one of the top. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Professor Juan, do you want to extend or add?
Yeah. Okay, thanks. I think that Dr. Hari has have talked about a lot of the things that we can learn as being an accountant. And so now I just add some my point. The first one is that the skill of problem solving is very, very important. So as the new information technology improvement, so you will get more tools that for you to analyze a lot of different situations. So the skill to solve the problem is a very important one. And the second I should mention is that maybe you should understand what the top management are thinking, because your decision are for the maybe decision support. So you should understand what they need, the information what they need. And so I think sometimes you can to explore the both meetings in the annual report, then you can understand what the decisions they face and how they judgment and to make the decisions. And the third, I should emphasize the importance of the communication, because as a content, especially management content, you will have face to all the peoples in the company, maybe the people from the marketing, the people from the manufacturing. Their mindset sometimes is very different from what you have learned in the accounting scope. So you should try to learn to communicate with all these peoples, and I think that will help you in your future career. Thanks.
Okay, we still have 2 questions, but I think we will only choose one. We will, because the time is already over now. We are going to respond the question from Matero. Matero ask what the models that the accountant can use to manage fraud in financial data. I think I give the first opportunity to Prof. Juan because one of your specialty in audit. So I believe that you can answer this.
Okay, thank you, Professor Guang. Yeah, yes, as this kind, I think most of the accounting firms, like the Big Four, when they are going to do the auditing, now they can download all the transaction data from the company, and then they will develop some tools for them to identify the most part that they should pay more attention for their auditing. Besides, now there are some development of the continuous auditing. All of this technology can help us to try to find out the evidence that can be explored. Maybe there will come the fraud situations. Yeah, I think so. There have more models that are created by the accounting firms, I think. Thanks. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Prof. Wang. We have only one question left. For the last question, I give this to Dr. Hari. Do you want to respond this? Even though the question is for the all speaker, since we only have we don't have time anymore. I'll only give this question to Dr. Hari.
Okay. What is the question? I'm sorry.
From Dewi. how to build good accounting and management changes in using big data to help every work program, and what are the right solutions in controlling the challenges of using big data for the using big data from the accounting and management profession to avoid risk in the 4.0 era. Well, do you want to respond this, or Professor Huang, because Professor Huang also discussed about the big data. Okay.
I'm sorry, I have a problem with the internet. Okay.
Okay, that's fine. Dr. Hari, do you want to respond this?
Okay, I missed the question because problem with the internet.
Okay, the question we can see the question in the chat room box. It's
okay. From
how to build from Dewi. How to build
Dewi.
good accounting and management change in using big data. I think that's the point of the question.
This
how we use the big data to build good accounting and management changes.
Okay.
I think just that point.
Okay, so when we want to talk about the big data, okay, most of the data, we have a lot of big data. You know, for instance, in one companies, we have many kind of activities, many kind of transaction. Okay, so these companies have a customer, and also they have a supplier, and they have another supplier, etc., etc. In these companies also, they can record, for instance, like sales transactions, purchases transaction, payroll, employees transaction, etc., etc. Okay, and also they have record, for instance, many kind of aspects, especially like culture and also activities, not only in the companies, the other companies. So with those kind of data, we can, as I mentioned, that you need to have a good understanding about how to analyze the data, because there's a bunch of data. There's a lot of kind of data. You have to filter the data, okay? And you have to know what kind of data that is relevant to what you are going to make a certain decision or to cope with a certain problem. That's why you have to have a good idea using the decision model, okay, how to make a decision, how to select the problem, how to identify the problem, and also to make a certain kind of alternative solution, yeah, and use statistic, okay, use statistic, because with those kind of statistic, beside financial data, beside non-financial data, they can give you a good idea about the trend or the movement of a certain kind of growth. Then of course you can have come up with a certain kind of solution. I think you still need to understand, and if you are an accountant, of course you have to understand about the financial aspect, and also you have to understand the tools that can be used for analyzing the data. I think that's all.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Hari Suharman, for the response for the last question. I'm really sorry we cannot extend the time because the time is already over. Now it's time to end this session. Allow me to close this session with a quote from Gary Coleman, Global Industry and Senior Client Advisor, Deloitte Consulting. The fourth industrial revolution is still in its nascent state, but with the swift pace of change and disruption to business and society, the time to join in is now. Ladies and gentlemen, from now on, as accountant, we need to prepare ourselves with skills and knowledge of Industry 4.0 so that we can be a part of this change. That's all, and thank you. Ms. Tria, I hand this platform over to you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Tan Minh Quang. Also, thank you, Dr. Harry and Prof. Huang for an amazing inspirations in today's sharing session. For participants who need our today's PPT presentation materials, you may check in the chat box. So our next agenda is I would like to invite all speakers and participants for photo sessions. So please kindly open your camera. So I would like to ask Daniel, would you please help us to lead the photo session?
Yes, thank you, Ms. Ria. I will handle this photo session. May I invite all ladies and gentlemen? Sorry, may I invite you, ladies and gentlemen, and all participants to on the camera before we take this photo session. I will give 2 minutes for the all participants to on the camera. Okay, in my left 5 slides, I will start counting 1 until 3 and we'll take the picture. Okay. For the first slide, 1, 2, 3. The second slide, 1, 2, 3. The third slide, 1, 2, 3. The fourth slide, 1, 2, 3. And the last slide is the fifth slide, 1, 2, and 3. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Daniel. We have started this event with prayer and we will be closing with prayer too. I will ask our committee, Fiona, to lead the closing prayer. Fiona, the screen is yours.
Thank you, Mrs. Tria. I will lead the prayer in Confucianism. Please follow according to your respective belief and religion. Let us pray together. Tian, thank you for your blessing from morning till this afternoon, so we can gathering in this event, International Guest Lecture today. Now we are in the end of the event and we will continue our activity. Bless all our activity. Let us stay in your protection. Sanjay.
Okay, thank you so much, Fiona. Yeah, I think we can, have and I would like to apologize if there are many mistakes from me as MC during the session. Just for information, if you were late to join our session, do not worry because you can rewatch the recording from Fakultas Bisnis Maranatha YouTube page. And we hope you learned something today and find the sharing session informative and useful. Last but not least, I saw some participants from outside Indonesia. So hello and thank you. On behalf of Universitas Maranatha, I would like to thank you for your participating in our event today. Again, I would like to remind to all participants to fill out the presence form, which we have put in the chat box. We will send you the e-certificate through your email based on the presence form. And please take note that this link will be open for only 30 minutes. Approximately until 11:45 Indonesian time or 12:45 Taiwan time. So that's all for me. Have a great rest of your day and until next time, we will see you again in another event. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tan Minh Quang. Thank you. Prof. Quang, thank you very much.
Dr. Hari, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I have problem with the Wi-Fi. It's not stable. Okay.
That's fine. That's fine, sir.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Professor Kwang and Dr. Hari. Yeah, it's a great event that we can share the idea about the Industry 4.0. Yeah, thank you very much.
We also thank you, Professor Huang. for your sharing today. If
Yeah, thank you.
we look forward to cooperation with you in the next guest lecture. We'll see you.
Always opportunities. Yeah, thank you.
Yes, we'll see you soon. Bye.
Yeah,
Okay.
Thank you,
Okay,
Prof.
goodbye.
Wang. Thank you,
Thank
Dr.
you.
Hari.
Okay. Thank you, Tiffany.
Thank you, Dr. Hari. Thank you, Dr. Tan Minh Quang.
Thank you,
Yeah, Bu Rapina, thank you.
Miss Davina. Thank you. Okay.
Shreya, thank you, Rikna.
Thank you, Tria. Thank you for all the committee of this guest lecture.
Okay.
Good job.
You're welcome.
Okay. So.
So, Prof. Wang, if you want to leave the meeting room, you may leave.
Okay, thank you, Shreya. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you, sir.
thank you, Prof. Wang.
I have permission to leave. Thank you. Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Dr.
Thank you,
Hari.
Dr. Hari.